I'm thrilled to introduce our next speaker, Allie Magyar, and look forward to a conversation on the one where you learn to lead during chaotic times. Thank you, Allie, for being here.
I'm excited to be here. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yes, you sound great.
Great. Well, it is Wednesday, which means that we can celebrate the successful fact of being halfway through yet another week. And it's funny, when I started thinking about this topic, about leading during chaotic times, there's a piece of me that's like, no, I don't want to. There's days where I wake up and I think, God, this sucks, and I'm angry and I'm upset. And then there's other days that I wake up and something simple happens and there's joy in my life and there's the ability to connect. And so today I'm really excited to be here with each of you and for us to be able to connect and figure out how together we can put skills in place that help us not just to lead, but to lead happy, successful lives, even in the face of adversity. And for those of you that I haven't met, I'm Allie Magyar, and my official title is founder and CEO at Hub, but I like to introduce myself with a word that I feel like describes me. And it was regardless of whether I was working at Old Navy when I was 16 and I was a denim jean wall master. No one did the denim jean wall better than me. Or now in my current role in event technology, hustle is the word that's always described me. And that is something that comes through in every element of my life. And I've been in the meetings and events industry for over 20 years. So I started my career back in '99, which makes me feel so old. And you can see my gray quarantine hair here. But so much of the industry has changed over time. When we think about our ability to be able to really think about our world. And back in February, my phone started to ring off the hook because after 20 years, things were falling apart. After all the years of, I used to manage citywide events for 30, 40,000 people. And I've managed small executive level retreats, and I've managed birthday parties, and I get sucked into every single friend's wedding, all of the things that are so core to who I am. Events are core to me. It's all about the experience, about bringing humanity together, about getting people to collectively be able to experience something greater than what they could have themselves. And my phone, as it was starting to ring, was people saying, what's going on? Everything we've known for our entire lives is changing overnight. I don't know if I have a job. I don't know if events are coming back anytime soon. I don't know what's going to happen with my health or my family or school. Basically, everything for us personally and professionally changed overnight. And I remember going through 2008, 2009, when we sort of had the economy crash. And that was right after I bought my first agency. Luckily, I was in my 20s. I didn't know what I was doing and I was okay with it. And I was like, well, I'm lean and mean. I'm just going to get through this. But everything fell then too. But this feels a little bit different because this isn't just people don't have budgets and so they're not going to travel. This is our entire world is changing. How we interact is changing. And so there are days where I show up and I say, yeah, this sucks. And it's been interesting to think about with the change that's happening, going through the different stages of grief, right? The shock of what's happening. And then the immediate denial. Events are coming back. It'll be fine tomorrow. The world is going to go back. My kids, thank God, will go back to school tomorrow. We want to deny what's going on because it feels so overwhelming. And then there's time when anger creeps in, bargaining, and then getting depressed because it feels like Groundhog's Day, time and time again. So for me, these are things that I wake up every day and I would start to process through. And oftentimes, as someone in the meetings and events industry, and as an entrepreneur that feels like hustle is the word that describes me, I would often get up and I would think, I can fix this. I want to be able to fix this. I want to be able to do things that could affect change. And so I would get up and I would ignore all of those feelings and I'd say, here's everything that I can do today. But the interesting thing is that that feeling stays with me as much as I try to ignore it. And as everything was falling apart, some of you may have heard about the PPP loans that ended up coming out for businesses that were dramatically affected. I still have an events company that's in live events, and I also have an event technology company that provides technology for live events. Both of those were in complete shambles overnight. We focused in the corporate high-tech world with both companies, and everyone said, "Whoop, time out, no events." And with the PPP, I applied. And the first time that I applied, our bank screwed up the transmission and they told us we were approved, but they never got a confirmation. And so as the first round of PPP funding closed, they had to call me and say, "Sorry, we made a mistake and there's no money to help you keep your employees." And in that moment, I went through all of these emotions, right? Shock on the phone, denial, saying, "No, you guys told me this happened. Like, you said that everything was fine," massive anger, depression, thinking about how I would get around it. And then I said, "Okay, I'm going to go fix it." And then I thought to myself, no, wait a second. I need to stop and I need to actually feel these emotions. Because unless we actually process them, unless we actually are willing to feel them and to grieve them and to go through the process, they stay with us. And there's so much in this transition of leading through change that requires us to be open to new ideas, to be open to new ways of doing things. And they may not be the same as what they were, so we need to grieve, because anytime there's change, both good and bad, we need to grieve the change so that we can move on to the next step. And any leader in an effective position, you tell me that the world's falling apart, but I need to lead. What am I going to lead in? I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know when events are coming back or feel like I possess skill sets of everything that's shifting and changing. And so oftentimes after we grieve and we open ourselves up, this is one of the hardest things for us to do, but we need to take care of ourselves. And taking care of ourselves, as a meeting planner, as someone that's constantly fixing things for other people, that's incredibly difficult because I'm going a million miles a minute, right? Okay, this is what's happening. I've got to put plans in place here. This is how we're going to survive. This is, how we're going to manage the budget, things that we're naturally good at in meetings and events. Put us in a crisis, we can deal with anything. For me personally, you put me in a personal crisis with emotions and feelings, not just execution, I fall apart. And so I had to learn that to be effective in leadership, I first had to take care of myself. And for every person, this is different. It requires some quiet so that you can say, how do I restore myself? Because when we're in a constant triggered state, and that's how I feel most days, it's really hard to think differently. And it's really hard for me to lead. If I have someone else calling me because they're overwhelmed and they're freaked out, or I have a customer that is just in tears because their event is in 2 weeks and they don't know what they're going to do, how do I actually give of myself and lead in that moment if I'm so triggered that I can't even take a breath? And so for me, as all these things started to fall apart and I had all this stress, I found myself being really directional, because that's what I do in meetings and events. When things are falling apart, do this, do this, do this. And I said, okay, I need to take a breath. And so my number one tip for taking care of yourself, especially for driven people like we are, is for us to be able to calendar that time for ourselves. So I blocked 7 to 9 a.m. every morning for myself. I don't sleep with my cell phone in my room. I sleep with it outside of my room so that I can be intentional and I can wake up without panic, without anxiety, and I can take that time to ground myself. I also put extra time on my calendar on Thursdays, and I go hiking. For me, there is nothing better than being outdoors, sweating profusely, being completely by myself, and being able to challenge myself and completely shut my brain off. Now, that can also feel selfish because we're so used to giving to everyone else. And so it feels selfish for me. There's 9 million things going on with my team. They're working their butts off, and here I am hiking. But what I found is that allows me to be my best self. And don't mistake it, I'm still working 50 plus hours a week. I'm still an overachiever. I still work super hard. Meeting planners are always people that accomplish way more than we think we're going to be able to. So that time of care for myself, that means that I'm able to be my best self and actually show up. And one of the biggest things in leadership is to be intentional. And so if you're able to be calm and you're able to take that time for yourself, what I found over time is that space actually gives me time to not be in the shit, right? Fixing everything, talking to every employee, working on this event, helping someone strategize here. Those are things that keep me busy 10, 12 hours a day. And I'm just doing. And that's good. I like doing that. And it's a part of leadership. But I also need the time to think. So for me, being intentional means that I can be intentional with my time. I can be intentional with my energy, which is so important in leadership. When I'm up hiking, I'm able to process things in ways that I can't when I'm in front of my computer. My brain is working out all sorts of things, how I could care for people more deeply, new strategies that I could take that would actually change. You know, I can feel scared on the top of a mountain, that's okay. But I tell myself, continue to breathe into that. And then I come back and I'm more focused and intentional with my time. What do I actually need to do? Because if I didn't block time, I'd work 12, 14 hours and I'd get lots done, but maybe it's not the most important things to get done. Be intentional with your leadership, how you show up for people, the time that you block for people. And most importantly, be intentional with your leadership style. And leadership style is different for every single person. That can be something where you decide that you're the energetic leader. For me, I love to publicly speak. I love getting in front of the company. I love singing and rocking out to Paula Abdul at the top of my lungs, telling people how we're going to be able to do this and inspiring us to be able to do it together. And I've seen other extremely effective leaders that don't have the same energy and mentality that I do, that are very calm and come and decide, here's a plan, tell me how you feel. And you just, when you meet with that leader, you can take a deep breath. But being intentional with your leadership, intentional with your time, allows people to lean in and to trust you and to know what consistency looks like. Because in times of massive change, consistency is so incredibly important. We all just want a routine. I asked earlier about what your favorite self-care routine was in quarantine, because it's important. We need to know that we can trust something in our lives. So that routine in the morning gives you something to trust. It's a routine that you know is going to happen. I know I'm going to drink my matcha after I drink my yucky apple cider vinegar. And I know that I'm going to take that time and pause. Your employees, your team, however you're leading, whoever you're leading with, they're looking for that pause themselves. They want a leader that leads with intention, that they know that when they're interacting with you, that this is what to expect, and that they can come to you for energy and for strength as you go and tackle the impossible. And the other element is to be authentic. No one likes a leader that says, oh, I know everything, this is what's going to happen, lays down the law, doesn't consult other people, doesn't actually show up as who they are. And being authentic can be scary because it's who you are, not what you are. Sure, you could be a senior director, an events manager, someone basically in charge. Someone's given you the title to be in charge. But instead of leaning on the title for importance, what about your own authentic nature? How do we show up to people in a way that allows them to relate to us? Who I am comes across in everything I do. I'm a complete dork, and that's okay. I love that. I love being able to laugh my crazy laugh. I love being able to share with people what's going on in my personal life, the things that I'm finding, the things that I'm learning. I like to relate to people as another human being, because authenticity is inclusive. I'm okay to be who I am, and you're okay to be who you are. And again, I go back to times of change can be really stressful. And so if you can show that you can be authentic and be your true self, even as things are tough, even as the entire world is changing, that allows other people to be comfortable with themselves as well. And for me, transparency is one of the #1 keys to leadership. My daughter is in 8th grade, and she just started school a couple of days ago. And I have experienced this so much throughout my life. Something happens, and everyone's scared to talk about it. So everyone talks over in this little group over here and this little group over here, and all these stories start to come up of what's happening and why. And then leaders are like, I don't understand why all these people have different perceptions and different views. And it's because we're not being transparent. We're not saying when things absolutely suck. We're not saying when we're terrified. So we get to flip the script. So for me, transparency is everything. When I think about leading, whether it's in an event or in a company, I want to say, this is what's going on. And right now in events, when this whole thing happened, we didn't get our PPP funding, all of our business was cut, everything was frozen for 30 days. I know a lot of companies that just went radio silent and just said, sorry, we have to cut, we'll get back to you later. And think about all of those people they were leading, all the stories they were telling themselves. They had no idea what was going on. So for me, the first thing I did was I showed up and I said, guys, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And I wake up every morning wanting to throw up. And it's scary. And I have no idea what's going to happen. What we've seen is our finances have frozen to X, our renewals have gone to X. And that means that we don't have money, and we want people to have a company to come back to as things recover. And we don't know what that looks like, but here's our plan. We're going to plan to furlough people for the next 3 weeks. And then in those 3 weeks, here's our sales goals that we have. Here's the markers that we're going to look for that tell us that we're on the right track in terms of the pivot to virtual events. So it was showing up to them, giving them the actual story. Now, I could have just as easily said, hey guys, don't know what's going on and you're furloughed and we'll let you know when we have more details. How panicked would everyone be? So to me, it's about sharing. What's the downside to sharing? Sure, people may be scared, but guess what? They're scared anyways. Their own stories are scary. So why not show up and share with them exactly what's going on? Now, this doesn't just pertain to crisis or change. I think it's more important in crisis and change, but it also applies to just your day-to-day. I do a monthly email to the team before this that said, here's where we're rocking the house, high five. Here's where things are not going according to plan. And any entrepreneur, anyone that's been in business for a long time, if they tell you that they've never been through firing, furloughing, ups, downs, craziness, falling off a cliff, those things happen all the time. And so your ability to be transparent and lead people through that change, that's where you can inspire. That's where you can help people to see the future. And leaders, it's our job to show up when things are hard. Do you know how many meetings I've gone to where I literally am hunched over and doubled over and I have to remind myself before getting on the call, sit up and breathe. I'm going to get on this call and tell people that we have to cut half the company because we weren't able to hit the goals. Now, they already knew about it because I was tracking every step of the way, but this was the moment of saying, I'm sorry, this is the change. And do you know how much fear comes with that? Everyone's going to quit. They all hate me. They all say I'm a horrible leader. All your personal things show up when things are hard. But if you've been transparent, you've been authentic, all you need is the bravery to show up. And oftentimes, people are just scared about having opinions. That's where leaders can show up. We can have an opinion. We can say, yes, this is scary. I am right here. And if you choose to follow me into battle, these are the things that we're going to be able to accomplish together. And I heard a leadership speaker last year that was talking about how when they were trying to recruit people to mine in the gold mines a super long time ago, they actually made ads that said, it's impossible. Join us to do the impossible. They didn't say, hey, here's all these great things and you can get rich and you can blah, blah, blah. They challenged people to say, this is some of the hardest work, but think about being able to accomplish that together. And that's what we have as a leader, is our ability to show up, to say that it's going to be hard, to say what it's going to take, to have an opinion of what that change looks like, to put a plan in place of how we're going to measure it, and then show up and be transparent with the results, and to pivot. Because nothing is guaranteed other than change. And we know that. We're in meetings and events. I would show up and be like, today's going to be the best day ever. And then I'd run out of food at lunch, or everything would be frozen, or, you know, the escalator would stop working, or the elevators would go down. I mean, you can name it. All these things happen to us all day, every day. We know how to deal with this. We just have to have a different perspective. And we know how to do this as well. When life gives you lemons make lemonade, right? You get super pissed off attendees at your event, and so they're really angry. I don't know, you didn't have the right type of cookie, or the internet wasn't secure, or the speaker didn't show up to the session. We instantly go into problem solving mode, and we say, okay, I'm sorry that that happened. Let's have lunch with that speaker, and so you can have some one-on-one time with them, making lemonade out of lemons. And for us, as we look through this massive change, we can go through those stages of grief. We can go through the anger, denial, frustration, all the things that come with that. And if we grieve them and then we're open to change, what could that change look like? And one of the most impactful things that I ever worked with someone, her name's Vivian, and she works at Microsoft, and we used to run Microsoft Ignite, which is their largest customer and user conference. And we did that together for many years. And she would come to me and she would consistently ask me, because she would come and say, hey, Allie, I want you to do blah. And I would come up with all the reasons why that was a bad idea. Not going to work. This isn't going to work. The budget's too expensive. It's too close to the show. Massive risk. I would come up with all these reasons why not, right? All the lemons. So she started to flip the script and she said, Allie, how could we? And that one little sentence change, how could we, meant that my brain then said, well, here's all the reasons. Here's all the things that we could do. Here's all the reasons that we should do this. Yes, there's risks, but this is how we could do that. And so that's our ability to think differently. It's our ability to say what is possible. And yes, our guts are gonna tighten, and it may make us feel totally panicked and we can't breathe because we've never done that before. Or I don't know if that's gonna be the way of the future. It might be a massive mistake. I might be leading this entire team in a death march. All those things are normal. They're part of leadership. But being a leader means that we can make a choice and we can say, yes, all this shitty stuff is happening right now, but we're gonna go make lemonade. And guess what? Those people marching with you, they'll be drinking lemonade along the way. It may not be the right march. It may not be the perfect march. But if you make it about the mission, about the why are you doing something? This is one of the #1 leadership tricks. And it's not even a trick. It's really the passion that you have. Why are you doing something? I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Simon Sinek and have listened to a lot of his TED Talks and speeches. And it's all about the why. And the why isn't, oh, we produce meetings and events. No. Why do you produce meetings and events? What effect does it actually have? And for me, this has been one of the most beautiful things about the change that's happened. I've grown up in meetings and events, live meetings and events. I had a 40th birthday party that I was supposed to be having with hundreds of people in Las Vegas. It was like the culmination party for me of my entire life that got canceled. I'm all about events and what those feel like, and I want them to come back as quickly as possible. But I also recognize that there's a massive change. Our world is going through a massive change. There is thinking about how our kids go to school, how they communicate, how we date. All of those things have changed so dramatically over the last couple of years, and the next couple of years are going to be forced innovation in technology because of the situation in the world. That doesn't have anything to do with meetings and events. That has to do with our lives changing. And so for me, as I think about leading a company and going through all this change, I looked at that and I said, what is my true heart and the mission of what we do at Hub? And for me, it's to help our industry. It's to provide tools that help people to be successful in their jobs. It's tools that help us with showing the value of events, connecting people, connecting the world on our product, our service, on making them better as an employee, a human, as a customer. And so I leaned into this and said, Hub is all about this mission to help our customers. That's always been the mission. So now we can look at our software and we can talk to our customers who call us crying and saying, I didn't think my event was going to happen. I didn't think I'd be able to do my first virtual event. I thought I'd never have a job. And for me, this is all about the leadership. I celebrate these things with my team all day, every day, because it's the mission of why we're here. And as we go through all of these leadership shifts and changes, this could be just in our own family. This could be in our company. This could be with friends. Leadership comes across in so many different places. But for me, I look at this and I say, it's all about the journey. Because right now it's really easy to feel mired, to feel overwhelmed, to feel angry, upset, resentful, all of those things. Those are all things that I feel. But I also recognize that as a leader and as a human, I have to go through these things in order to feel joy. We have to work through all of life, the positive and the negative, and we get to choose as a leader how we go through that. How do we show up? How do we show up to our family? How do we show up to our colleagues? How do we show up to our customers? Because in the end, I talk about my rocking chair test. At the end of time, when I'm sitting on my rocking chair and I'm remembering my life, what's important to me as a leader, as a human, as what people remembered? Because it's sure not going to be that I worked 15 hours a day and that I was the hardest worker that they knew. That might be true, and that's inherent in who I am, but that's not what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for how I showed up, how I led, how I was able to help people in the greatest time of need, and I want to remember that journey. So that is me sharing my soul with you guys of the process that I've gone through of leading through change over the last 6 months. There's also a TED style talk that I did. I did this as a keynote for Untethered, but it's all about flipping the script. It's all about success, failure, and the power of our language. And so if you're looking for to relate in terms of that negative voice that's in our head and the tools that we have in ourselves to be able to flip that script, there is a video on our blog that I talk about my own personal journey and how I've gone through that. So thank you for spending some time today. I've noticed that there's some chat going on and I appreciate that in our Zoom room. I'm here for any questions that you might have. It looks like we've got about 2 minutes left. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have.
Thank you so much, Allie. So I was following the chat and people were resonating so much with the stories you were giving. I think the way you described it as bearing your soul is so true. I feel like everyone sees a mirror effect from the stories you were telling. I consolidated just a few gems that I saw in there. Everything was so great. But in the chat, one thing was about transparency and leadership. And a few people chimed in saying that they feel their leadership has been incredible and they're really proud of the way that their companies has handled so many pieces of this and how there's no pre-written manual. And I thought that was great to see. They also were talking about when you're leading your team and how Shannon had mentioned how it's important to lead the best way that the team needs to be led, not necessarily the best way that you need to be led. And Shannon had said, I found this out the hard way on my leadership journey. I thought that was great. I think those are the ones that caught my eye. And of course, Therese said there's dating when you mentioned virtual dating. That made me laugh. So if anyone else has any other questions, we have about a minute left. If anyone wants to jump on, you don't have to type it in the chat. Feel free just to unmute yourself. And Allie will be here for the next minute or so. Allie, I don't know if you're planning on going into Central Perk after this. If anyone wants to continue conversation with you, the option to go there. Anyone have any questions or maybe not even questions, just sentiments from the presentation and any things you relate on to Allie's stories?
Hi, this is Tina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Really, really enjoyed your perspective, Allie. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, Allie. It's Therese. This was an awesome presentation, and thank you for your continued transparency. It's really refreshing.
Thanks, Therese. And for those that don't know, I've known Therese for most of my career as well. So she's definitely been a part of that feedback and mentorship loop for me. So it's fun to see things come full circle.
But I didn't just turn 40.
It's okay. There's days where I forget. I don't quite know how old I am. I feel like I'm still in my 20s somehow some days.
It's Thursday.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. And yes, I'm going to go over into Central Perk. So if I can connect with any of you, if I can share stories, I'm excited to do so. And just encourage each of you to lean into that pause today and to give yourself some recognition and take care of you as you go and lead others into the battle. Thanks so much for the time, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to be carrying that bit of wisdom with me as I continue throughout the summit today. I need it. So Allie will be over in Central Perk. Feel free to head over there. We are going to have a little session break right now in this room. I'll put up a slide that has an agenda for the rest of the time in this room. But I'm going to be stopping the recording for right now.